Everybody, welcome to another edition of Shooting the Breeze. As usual, I am your friendly neighborhood soda, joined by my good friend here, Ben Rayner. How you doing, my dude?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to get into this topic.
Yeah, okay, me too, and we might as well hop into it. Joining us for the second time is Arron Connole from, what was the name of the show again? Schmo Bates?
Schmo Talks.
Schmo Talks. There's so many.
Schmo Bates is owned by somebody else.
There's so many Schmoes shows out there. Sometimes it's hard to remember which one's which. I'm sorry.
Listen, I'm just happy that 7 years into this thing, I was able to get a title that was so generic. I searched YouTube to make sure that it didn't exist. So
Really?
Thank you. Yeah, I had to make sure. I was like, I don't want to steal this from somebody. But
How are you?
good. Doing as well as I think anybody could out there. Excited to get into this topic, man, because it's certainly a fun one to discuss, especially given what's coming up.
Yeah, so if you wouldn't mind introducing it for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess realistically, we can talk a little bit about the current one, but all things Oscars, it is Oscar weekend. We're about 2 months later than normal, but we're coming up to it. And I mean, this year has been such a weird year that it's almost like this doesn't exist. Like, I really don't know anybody who's talking about it. But it's funny because, if you're a film fan and you watch especially the indies that come out, this year is more indie than any year the last couple of years because so much of the big stuff got pushed that I think it's one of the most interesting Oscars in terms of when you look at like the nominations lists and all that. It's such an interesting year.
Well, yeah, and one reason why I personally think that it's not being talked about this year is because the movies that people usually are bitching that didn't get nominated didn't get released last year. So I think that might help with it.
True.
I think we will get a lot of bitching about the Emmys coming up because everything that's coming, we're going to be, everyone's going to watch streaming stuff that's new. Opposed to everything else. And that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I'm with you. Like, I'm looking at the list of best pictures. I've only heard of one of them.
Yeah. It's such a like in terms of scale, it's such a small list.
Yeah, I've heard of four of them, but they haven't come out for me yet, so I haven't seen them.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I'm aware, The Father still hasn't had a full wide release. Like, it's only been limited as far as I'm aware.
I'm not a fan of that. And the reason why I say this is because if you want people to play along, to watch along and root for movies, it should be movies that have been widely released and that people have had the opportunity to see. So nominate a movie like The Father, which, as you just said, was barely released. Like, it hasn't had its full release yet. I mean, is that? I don't know. It just seems weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, The Father is one of the ones that I've seen, but I admit that I totally lucked into it. So this is the interesting thing. I live, if you've seen me on anything, I say this often. I live in Orlando, Florida. I'm like right outside of Disney. I used to work at the AMC that's on Disney property, and that is especially one of the theaters because it's so huge that independent films like this through AMC's indie program usually end up there. The closest theater to me that had The Father was 50 plus miles away. Like, even that theater didn't get it. The only reason I saw it is because a couple of weeks ago, I happened to decide to go away for a few days to see a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a long time. And the hotel that I stayed at happened to have an indie theater down the road that was playing it like less than 5 minutes. Like, I absolutely lucked into it. And I was like, I have to take this chance because it's right there. So, and it's a brilliant film. I mean, for me, it's my front runner, but you're right. It's got such a small release so far that it's like, how many people have even had the chance to see it, let alone just gone and seen it if it's there?
Well, I have a question for you guys. With all the streaming services coming out, should there be one chance for Oscar nominated movies that all the best pictures and every movie that's nominated goes into the streaming service every year? Somebody might have to pay that's like $50 for the whole Oscar season. Is that something you would be interested in doing?
Possibly. I just want them to open up the restrictions a little more. Like, I mean, for me, it should be all movies that are between X amount over X amount of hours. So anything that's over an hour and a half should be should be considered.
No, I agree with that, and I agree with you, but I'm just saying, okay, after a movie gets nominated, let's take The Father for an example. It gets nominated. You then take all the Best Picture nominated, make a streaming service called The Oscars, put all the nominations there every year, so everyone has time and a chance to watch it before the ceremony.
Yeah. I mean, I say this half jokingly, but Netflix is almost becoming that. For the second year in a row, there's now a whole separate tab on Netflix for everything they have on their service that's been nominated, because they have like 2 or 3 Best Picture nominees. They got a shit ton of short film nominations. I think 2 animated film nominations even came from Netflix this year. Like, they got a ton, and like, even stuff in smaller categories, like The Five Bloods got 1 nomination, but it's a Netflix film, so it counts, and it's in that category. It's impressive how many films Netflix has that got nominated, which is funny because, I mean, a couple of years ago, you know, there was a discussion of like, oh, should Netflix films even qualify? I mean, I remember, I only know this from working at a theater, there was an uproar amongst the indie community because every year AMC does its like Best Picture marathon. And Netflix wouldn't allow Roma to play because the Academy had such a backlash against them pushing for a film to be nominated that they said, well, you know what, your thing that's run through this corporate that gives exposure to your films, we're not letting you do it. We've released it in theaters to meet your nominations. It's on a public streaming platform for everyone to see. Most of you have or know somebody who has Netflix. Catch it there. We're not putting it on your marathon. And that caused upheaval amongst people because, you know, that was right at the divisiveness. And now jump forward 3 years and they're dominating the nominations for 2 years in a row. Because last year they had Marriage Story and The Two Popes and a couple other films that were leading the nomination, The Irishman. Yeah. So it's kind of incredible that, you know, in just a couple of years, the sphere around streaming services has turned. But I think it's a brilliant idea, Ben. If it's something that could come together, because the only problem with that is so many studios have such a claim of right to their films that I wonder how many would clear it. What's the price dividend split up? Who's making what off of what?
Exactly. The distribution, and then the question, when you start getting into international markets, distribution, sometimes there's certain different distribution companies. Like I learned, for example, Titanic in the United States is 20th Century Fox, but for most everywhere else in the world, it's Universal.
Which movie was it?
Titanic. It's 20th Century Fox. Yeah. But once you start getting into the rest of the world, it's Universal that distributed it, I believe. So it's just like once you start getting international markets, okay, who gets what slice of the pie? You're right. It's pretty much what it comes down to is distribution, and that's always a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Ben has the idea that film fans would love, and the studio suits have the semantics that stop it. It's essentially what happens.
I mean, the other option,
because you know Netflix would never get on board with it because it's the same argument. We have the most owned streaming service in the world. We're now literally categorizing it for. I mean, there was a bunch of films that I didn't even realize Netflix had that got nominated, and they're literally in one place where I could go add to playlist, add to playlist, add to playlist, add to playlist, so I can get to them later. You know, I mean, this year alone, like if I look at just the Best Picture category, they produced Mank. They produced Trial of Chicago 7. If we want to stick with streaming services, Sound of Metal was produced by Amazon. I don't believe they produced it, but Hulu now has stake in Nomadland. They picked it up and distributed it more wide than it would have been through theaters. You know, like that's half the nominees right there that have investment in streaming services. And that's not counting the film studios themselves. So yeah, I just think it would become a debating game. You know what I mean? And I think the only streaming service that seems to be willing to play ball in that sense is Amazon, because they're the only streaming service that consistently gives their produced films a wide release.
Yeah, that is true.
Another part of me feels like, should Netflix invent in a movie theater chain? Like, I don't know.
Well, I was going to
Like,
say we're going to get a test of it a couple of weeks from now because I don't know if you guys knew this. It's not something they're widely promoting, but I only found this out because here's a way to plug stuff. One of the shows that I do on my channel, After Dark, which is kind of a movie news type of thing on Saturday nights, and I do a lot of the research for it and put the stories together. The upcoming Zack Snyder film, Army of the Dead, is releasing to Netflix on, I believe, May 21st. It's actually getting a theatrical release on May 14th. I don't know how wide it'll be, but it will be going to theaters. And that's not something that's being widely promoted at all. And I think that's very interesting because I'm curious to see what that means. Is this like they think it's an Oscar winner, so it's in 2 theaters in LA and New York, or are they actually going to put this out there, give people a chance to see it if they want, and then it goes to their platform for everyone to see?
I'm thinking it's going to be more of a guinea pig type situation where they're just doing it to test the waters to see if this is viable.
Wait, how can you call it a guinea pig? Didn't they do the same thing with The Irishman and Marriage Story?
Yeah, but those fall into to get nominated category.
Oscars. So the Marriage Story and The Irishman, they did. So they had, I believe, if I remember correctly, they got full on releases like weeks running in LA, literally LA and New York.
Yeah.
And then they technically count as a nationwide release because they did one day city by city releases in other major cities around the country. So like I know for like a day or two, Orlando theaters were allowed to have access to play Marriage Story, but it was just for that day or two. And there was probably all sorts of weird rights things with getting it in, you know? So like chains like AMC just didn't bother with it. So I don't know if this will be one of those things. I don't imagine because there's only a week gap with those. They were doing it like a month before the films came out on streaming. But I think it certainly is an interesting thing to test the waters and kind of see are Netflix willing to become more game with theaters? Because I think if they are, the fact of the matter is you can't deny that their film studio has gone from consistently producing either, you know, half decent teen crap like To All the Boys I've Loved Before and just failed abortion blockbusters like Bright to putting out multiple Oscar contenders every year that are legitimately worthy of it.
Bad.
It
wasn't that bad, but it's not.
They still put out pretty bad movies. I mean,
no, of course.
What was that Melissa McCarthy movie everybody's talking about?
Oh, yeah, that's not good. But
I mean,
and that's like all the Adam Sandler stuff.
But to be fair, that has a certain audience. Like this Melissa McCarthy thing, I remember when I saw the reviews, everybody was like flipping because they were like, "Oh my god, why is it bad? It should have been so good." I looked it up once and knew it would suck. It was directed by Ben Falcone.
Yeah.
Is it
like that right there? Thunder Force, yes, on Netflix. Yeah. Like I looked it up. Director Ben Falcone. They haven't made one good film together. Maybe their marriage works, but their movies don't. So it's like, it is what it is. Like, unfortunately, they're not a good pair creatively. They don't turn out good movies.
Well, that makes me wonder why continue making movies then? I mean,
because clearly they like it.
McCarthy, that's why.
Okay.
They do make money.
Yeah.
When they're in theaters, they make money.
Yeah.
I mean, Tammy was a hit. Like, that was the first one. Tammy was a bona fide hit. Like,
yeah, I've only seen The Boss. That one was not fun.
Yeah, The Boss sucked. I think he also directed the one that went to HBO last year. I don't remember that one getting great reviews.
Superintelligence.
Superintelligence, yes. That might have been him. I'm not 100% sure.
That is him, yeah. I'm on the end.
It is him, yeah. And to be fair, if I remember correctly, the Rotten Tomatoes score for that was like in the 40s when I last checked it, and that's like the best their films have gotten. That says everything. It may be lower, I don't know. But
Did he do Identity Thief?
No. The one with Bateman, that was
So
My instinct was Seth Rogen, but no, his one was the one with Streisand. That was also bad.
So no, Ben Falcone has done Tammy, The Boss, Life of the Party, Super Intelligence, and now Thunder Force.
Yeah, 5 bad movies.
Yeah, yeah. The Boss was. Ouch.
5 bad movies, right there.
Yeah. So, when it comes to past Oscars ceremonies, is there one that particularly sticks out in your mind? Like, what was the first one you guys watched that you remember watching?
I'd have to look. Let me see.
Because I remember watching bits of like Billy Crystal's monologues and David Letterman's monologues, but the one I remember watching from beginning to end was 1998, the year Titanic one, because I'm a big Titanic mark.
You guys talk, I have to actually remember.
The problem with me on the Oscars is, once I watch him, I see so many movies that the ceremonies go out of my way sometimes.
Yeah.
So, I'll tell you my favorite one, I've been talking about it off air, is Seth MacFarlane hosting. That's really fun to watch.
Yeah, for me, it's hard to pick which one, but it's Billy Crystal's Oscars.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm a big fan of his type of comedy.
Me too.
So,
Steve Martin.
Yeah, him too.
Steve Martin?
Yeah.
Not as big a fan as Billy Crystal with him?
No, I that was I love him. I love Steve Martin. Yeah.
Okay, so I was able to find it. If my face doesn't date me enough, this will certainly date me. So the first one that I can definitely remember watching, and to be fair, when I was younger, I used to sit there and watch whatever my parents had on. So I'm sure I saw younger ones.
Yeah.
But the first one that I can remember, like I definitely remember watching him host, was the 2009 one with Hugh Jackman. That's the first one I can remember.
That's a great one.
Yeah, and he I mean that's the showman thing, right? Like just stick a showman up there and they'll do you right.
Oh yeah, that's the year Heath Ledger won.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that now, and it's funny to look back on it now. Robert Downey Jr. getting nominated for Tropic Thunder. That would never fucking happen now.
Well, I don't know.
His nomination wouldn't happen. I'm saying that role wouldn't happen.
Oh, I think that role wouldn't happen because the whole purpose of that role is showing people how crazy it is, I don't know. I think it could happen.
See, I want to believe humanity could understand the joke, but then last year they tried canceling him for it, so I don't actually think they would get the joke there.
I'm surprised nobody went after Ben Stiller for the Simple Jack stuff. Oof.
Oh, they did. I remember that.
To be fair. And I know this because I know somebody who is one of those and the thing is, I don't think all of them are ill-natured, but cancel culture is stupid simply because sometimes the people who are so for it don't even understand what they're canceling. So I remember somebody who was on that, and they said something offhand where they were like, have you seen this Robert Downey Jr. thing? They were like, oh my God, I can't believe he would do something like that. And I was like, you're talking about Tropic Thunder? And they were like, yeah. They were like, you're a movie guy. What is it? And I was like, so first off, I said, you want to cancel him for something you don't even know. I was like, all right. I said, first off, the movie came out in 2008. I said, the movie was probably made and filmed before he was Iron Man. I don't know when the timelines line up for those, but they came out roughly around the same time.
They did,
so he was just Iron Man, or this was filmed before he was Iron Man. I said, so there's that. I was like, this is years old. I said, second off, in the film, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if I remember correctly, he's playing an Australian character who is a method actor who is portraying a black character. I said, so the joke actually has nothing to do with race. It's more of a commentary on the concept of method acting and how outrageous it can be sometimes. I said, so if anything, I said, the joke's not racist. I said, what they're making fun of is shit that you guys would hear about years later, like Jared Leto sending dead rats to people on Suicide Squad and always being in character. That's what they're making fun of. If you'd seen the movie, you'd know that. I said, third off, the reason it looks horrendously racist is because that is the point. throughout the entire film, they consistently point out how tasteless what he's doing is.
That results in one of my funniest lines. What do you mean, you people?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Like, that's the point. Like, you are canceling him because of how tasteless it is. Robert Downey took the role because of how tasteless it is. He understands what it is. I'm like, shit, if you want to cancel him for anything in 2020, cancel him for the 2 hours I spent watching Doolittle, not this. This is good. Like,
yeah, it is one of his best roles. Like, I mean,
it is. It's so fun. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. Like, it's incredible.
Okay, talking about cancel culture, can I bring something up? Kevin Hart and what happened to him about the Oscars?
Oh, the Oscar thing. Yeah.
Yeah, a few years ago to bring it back to the Oscars. What stupid argument that was. I'm sorry. I mean, yeah.
I have a vague idea, but
I was gonna say I can explain it to you what happened. So essentially, which to be fair, I will say again, another situation where I think canceling was done without understanding the context of what something is. I don't hate this one as much, only because I thought the show that year was actually really well done. The first year they did it without a host.
Oh, the host, yeah, I agree.
Something without that. Last year it was done a little more shakily, so I'm kind of curious to see how it goes this year. But that first year without a host, I thought that was executed perfectly. Like, kudos to those showrunners. And Kevin Hart's career hasn't been hurt by it, so thankfully no one involved was harmed. A great Oscars happened, and Kevin's still as popular as ever. So, thankfully no one got hurt. So what happened is he got put in charge of the Oscars, and the next day somebody went back through Twitter and dragged up a quote where it was basically the tweet was like, if my son ever came out as gay, I beat him with I'd beat him with a dollhouse till he was straight or something like that. Now I'm paraphrasing the joke. The reason I say it's a joke is because the people who probably drugged it up did not realize that what he was tweeting was actually a quote line from one of his stand-up specials where he was saying it as a joke. It was a joke in a stand-up special. And so the internet went insane. He got canceled for it. The Oscars let him go. And the thing that people didn't realize, and this is I forget who tweeted it out, but I did see a tweet with this. Somebody basically said, you guys dug back 8 years to find this tweet, but on the way back through his timeline, you didn't find this. And it was a retweet of something from 2014, where in an interview, somebody brought up that comment and he addressed it and talked about how, listen, at the time, like, those are jokes. They don't completely reflect my views, but I was more ignorant to the situation and the community at the time. I probably would never say anything that extreme nowadays, but the fact matter is, it was a joke. I would never actually physically beat a gay person with a dollhouse. Like, that's the truth. It's exaggerated comedy, but admittedly, now that I'm more informed on it, I probably wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
And as somebody who is a fan of his comedy, and I've seen most of his specials, he has stayed away from jokes like that over the years, But that's the thing is, like, I think the idea behind cancel culture is not all terrible, because I think it is interesting to see people more and more nowadays wanting to hold people accountable for things that aren't okay. I think the problem is, especially with last year and with quarantine and everyone being stuck at home, people became so quick to dig for things and lash out at things and not understand the context and situation. And I think, unfortunately, context is everything.
Of course.
I mean, you can take one line from someone from anything, and on its own, it could sound way worse than what you mean it. You know what I mean? If somebody wanted to, they could pull me paraphrasing the Kevin Hart joke and put it on a tweet and say he said this and get me canceled, without the context of I'm paraphrasing a Kevin Hart tweet from 10 years ago that he has since apologized for.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like,
yeah, I understand that. Me and a coworker got in a disagreement a couple years ago over something Brie Larson said.
Okay.
At an independent awards banquet, anyways, and he was going off how she's a horrible person. I said, no, look, here's actually the whole speech, and I showed it to him. He's like, huh. okay, it actually wasn't that bad. I'm like, no doy. Like, context is everything nowadays.
In context, and it's headline reading without reading full articles or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
I mean, the fact is, like, and the thing is, like, to go back to the Downey example, you know, the fact is, we have people out there who have done blackface without really understanding the harm they're doing. I mean, we've all seen Justin Trudeau's college pictures. We all know what happened there.
One of the most famous movies in the world, The Jazz Singer, was blatant for that.
Yep. It's a great example.
Yeah.
But anyone could pull Downey with the faux afro and the makeup on and look at that picture and go, oh my God, he's doing blackface. But if you've seen the film, you understand that they are doing it while condemning it.
Yeah.
You know, they're using blunt extremes to make a point. And that's the whole point of that movie. I mean, look at the Les Grossman character. That character is essentially an amalgamation of what an actor or producer's view of a studio head is, but it's clearly exaggerated. You know, no studio head is consistently over the phone saying shit like, I'm gonna rip your fucking dick off and shove it up your ass so that it comes out your throat. You know
who Robert Downey Jr. is making fun of in that movie? I'll tell you right now. No, 100%.
I wouldn't be surprised. He is the most famous actor.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
My hope with Daniel Day-Lewis is that we find out in a couple of years he comes back and we find out that the Irish shoe cobbling has actually been for a role all these years.
Wouldn't put it past him, to be honest.
Like, that's... What an interesting man that guy is.
Oh, for sure. There is actually, I don't know if you guys know this Oscars tidbit, but I mean, I know Ben, you into wrestling by chance?
Am I into wrestling? No, not really.
Okay, but you're familiar with the movie The Wrestler, right?
Yeah, the with Mickey Rourke.
Yeah. So the year that was nominated and stuff, Mickey Rourke was originally reportedly penciled in to actually wrestle a match at WrestleMania. They were trying to keep it as hush-hush as possible. But then he let it slip on one of the red carpets that he was competing, and then they automatically canceled that. He still ended up being involved in an angle that night, but originally he was supposed to wrestle a match at WrestleMania to hype up the wrestler.
Oh. See, I feel like that would have been the ultimate thing to get people on board with that film. Have him show 100%.
Up. And like they still did something cool. They still did something cool, and it actually ended up working out like gangbusters. Where it was the bad guy that Mickey Rourke was supposed to wrestle ended up facing against three really old legends. And Rourke came in after the match and punched Jericho. But I mean, yeah, it was supposed to be Jericho versus Mickey Rourke. That would have been like,
wow,
yeah,
wow,
yeah. And instead, what we got out of it is we got Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, who hadn't wrestled a match in probably 20 years by that point, 15 years, something like that. Came out, stole the show. Old man still flying like he used to in the 1980s. It was okay. It was pretty remarkable.
I was gonna say sometimes accidents lead to good things, you know.
100%. Yeah, it gave him like a 1 month run, and then that was like awesome, great to see him back. But yeah, it would have been fun to see Mickey Rourke versus Chris Jericho. But I think Jericho could have gotten a good match out of it.
Speaking of wrestling, you know who would be a fun Oscar horse one day?
Of course, The Rock.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, I thought we were gonna go with Dave Bautista. My bad. I totally.
Bautista wouldn't be half bad, and I'd even argue Cena as well.
Yeah, they all have that charisma. They all have charisma at the very least.
And Batista's actually a good actor.
He's getting there. Every time I see him, he's better.
He's taking it seriously. Oh yeah.
Except for My Spy, that was pretty bad. But
I haven't seen it. But no, once he left wrestling, he put all his energy into acting, and he started taking classes and working with a bunch of people and auditioning consistently for all these roles and just trying to get as much experience as he could.
No, and he is really getting there as an actor. He is getting better and better every time I see him, you know. Yeah. I honestly think it's kind of unfortunate that with the Marvel films, his character has gone down a more butt-of-the-joke path, because I actually think if the dramatic element they had to the character in the first one had remained through the other films, I think he'd actually be executing it better than he did in the first film. So it's kind of a shame that he's become more the butt of the joke, the funny guy. Not that he's bad at it. It's just
that was Guardians 2 in general. While it's still an enjoyable movie, basically that one's like, okay, this worked in the first one. We're just going to keep hammering on that.
Yeah.
But if you want to see a good example of his acting, like Spectre and Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, he's great in both films, and it's not these insanely big parts. You know, he's never. I guess Army of the Dead will really be his first test. He's never really led a real film, because My Spy is not a real film, but he's never led a real film. You know.
Well, no,
I'm very
Uber with Connole.
Oh, right, he did do that.
Human.
Yeah, isn't that what I said?
That wasn't terrible.
No, you had human.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I think out of the three, he is the one more likely to get awards.
Oh yeah. All right. Cena, I could honestly see becoming a comedian. He is very funny.
Oh God, yeah.
And The Rock's just the Rock doesn't have to try because he's all charisma. That's not to say he hasn't improved either. He has improved very much so.
Oh, for sure.
But
I wish he would do more dramatic roles, to be honest. Like all these action stuff. It's like not saying I don't like the action stuff, but I'm saying like stuff like his Gridiron Gang movie and stuff like that. Like I want to see him do more of that.
I think the only problem with The Rock is, and this is not a detriment because goddamn the man's in shape, but his appearance, like, it's hard to. So like for example, I think a movie that would. One of those guys could do, to use an equivalency, is something like Spotlight, where put them in a movie like that. They don't have to be the lead, but they could be one of the extra reporters, because every performance in that film is great. They don't have to be the lead, but they could be one of the backgrounds. The problem is, I don't think The Rock could fit into a collared shirt, let alone believably portray some, like, you just look at him like, how the fuck is a reporter that yoked? Like, there's only so much he can do right now. Now, maybe as he gets older, and eventually your body just cannot keep up with that level of muscle, maybe he'll settle into something else.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, take a look at him when he entered Hollywood. Look at how slim he was. And the reason being is because his representation at the time and everyone that was kind of in his ear was telling him, like, we need you to step away from the wrestler look. Like, that's going to ruin your career. That's why for a long time he didn't really, but he almost denounced The Rock.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And he was always just Dwayne Johnson, and that's why he looked so slimmer, because they didn't want him looking like a wrestler. But then when he woke up and realized, no, I could actually do a lot of good stuff if I look like that, that's when he did the big change. And if you look at him now, you look at him 20 years ago, it's like that's not the same guy.
Yeah.
He was always big.
Him and he's like Christian Bale, just the opposite. Christian Bale goes from looking like good to, oh my God, he really put on all that weight, to, oh my God, he lost all that weight. Like Christian Bale goes from looking healthy to unhealthy. The Rock is just like normal man to, oh my God, look at him.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up a picture now of when he first entered Hollywood to what he looks like now.
He looks like Maui. He looks like a drawn character.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah, so I found this. This is when he entered Hollywood compared to him now. It's insane.
I'd love to see this. I can't.
So this is him around 2003, maybe.
Yeah, because I'm thinking The Rundown and like movies like that.
Be cool, yeah. And
Yeah.
This is him at his prime as a wrestler compared to now.
Shit, man, he almost looks better now.
Yeah, yeah.
The baby oil not doing him any help, but you know you probably need that for wrestling.
It's still really weird to see him I go back and watch that and to see him with hair.
Yeah.
Especially
My
with
favorite is
he had this weird hairdo. It was like a chia pet type of thing.
I love the picture of him in the turtleneck, like when he was real young. That's my favorite. Just, oh my gosh, that is incredible.
Is that the fanny pack one?
Fanny pack one and the black turtleneck, the gold chain that everyone needs to redo.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys. You don't have to go too far deep back, but just over the last couple of years, what are some of your either like favorite films that have won or films that you think got like legitimately snubbed.
I'll tell you mine. Logan got snubbed for Best Picture. And Patrick Stewart for Best Supporting Actor.
I'd have to say that actually is number one. Is Patrick Stewart's lack of a nomination that year?
Oh, Logan.
Yeah.
If anyone from that film deserved the nomination, it's Patrick Stewart. God damn, he was so good in that film.
Yeah. And he deserved the nomination for Best Picture.
In my opinion, it was because of Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart elevated Hugh Jackman in that movie. I mean, don't get me wrong, Hugh Jackman is always incredible, but I think their chemistry, their dynamic, that was just beyond anything else I saw that year, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think Logan asked more of Patrick Stewart than any other X-Men film had to that point. And to see him deliver it, I mean, honestly, it's kind of interesting that I talk about The Father being one of my favorite films this year, and Logan was my favorite film of that year, because the characters are very similar, because he's basically playing kind of a dementia patient in that film, and the way he acts, the regressive state that he's in, not just physically, because he has to be carried, but like mentally you see it. It just an incredible, heartbreaking performance, you know? And then obviously when he dies, like that scene of him pouring his heart out to Logan only for the flip and the reveal that it's the wrong one is one of the best sequences in a comic book film ever, in my opinion. It's such a great scene.
Oh my god, I just rewatched that movie like 5 days ago. After 4 damn years, that movie still gets me. It is my favorite comic book movie by a mile. Nothing else comes close to that movie.
It's been a bit since I've watched it. I'm due for a rewatch.
Oh my god, I try to do it every 6 months. It is perfect.
I have framed in my living room the movie poster where he's holding X-22.
Oh,
okay, yeah.
That shot of her flipping the act,
yeah,
that gets me every time.
There were some stuff that was nominated that I think got snubbed. Like for me, the year Coco won for best song. Like, don't get me wrong, I do love that song. Remember, yes. But I think This Is Me should have won from The Greatest Showman.
Oh, okay, yeah. I probably slightly would give it to Coco, but as somebody who doesn't love The Greatest Showman, the soundtrack is the best part of that film, bar none. So, you know, fair enough. It deserved the nomination because didn't it have more than one? I think more than one song got nominated from that film.
Did it? What
I believe.
That would have been, what, 2016?
17.
Yeah, because that's the year of La La Land and stuff, correct.
La La Land was the year before, yes.
Oh, so it would have been 2018 then.
No, La La Land was 16.
No.
La La Land 16. I'm literally looking at it right now. So it would have been the year afterwards. That would have been the year of Get Out, right?
No, I'll tell you. That Showman, the British Showman was the same year as that Jedi, 2017.
Okay.
Okay, hold up.
Looking at it right now, it is 2018.
The year that the Oscars aired. Sorry, I always think of when the movie came out, not when the Oscars aired.
Released 2018 Oscars. But yeah, it was up against This Is Me, and then, of course, Remember Me, and 3 songs I don't recognize. That I remember hearing and thought were good, but...
Let me see. Let me go find this list.
Yeah, if you go on Oscars.org, it's all right there. Yeah.
Let me see. This year...
And of course, I think Hacksaw Ridge also should have gotten more love with it. I just think because Mel Gibson was attached to it, it hurt it.
Oh yeah,
that movie was superb, and I think it should have been talked about more in terms of potential winner. Because that is like Ben just recently watched it. It's a good damn movie.
What movie?
Hacksaw Ridge.
Oh my god, that's incredible! My favorite movie now.
Yeah.
And I just watched a great movie today. Warrior.
Yes, I haven't. It's one of those. It's there. You gotta watch it.
Oh my god, it's incredible.
Oh, I remember these this year. Yes. Sorry, continue. I'm finally just got there.
Year of Dunkirk, which put me asleep.
Oh, I love Dunkirk. I love it.
To do it.
But we talked about this before the show. Nolan for you, so I get it.
Yeah, but yeah, that was a good year. Like, I mean, you got Blade Runner 2049, which I'm shocked didn't get nominated for best. I want to see where that one fell, like how close that one came to getting a Best Picture nominee.
Yeah, because we didn't have 10 this year, did we? Shape.
No, we've never.
Shape of Water should not have won that award.
They've never done 10.
Shape of Water, Call Me by Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, 3 Billboards.
What was your favorite out of the list of that particular list? What was your favorite one that year?
Ooh, okay. Out of this list, okay, my personal favorite is Dunkirk, but I never considered it a possibility to win. My favorite film of the year wasn't nominated, which is Logan. Yeah. But out of this list, and to be fair, they're like this and this, but I actually think the film that was more likely to win that year and what I picked to win was 3 Billboards.
See, I watched that and I remember it lost me halfway through. It pissed me off when Sam Rockwell's character switched.
Really?
Oh, okay.
To me, it felt out of nowhere. Did not feel earned. There was no hint whatsoever that he might change his allegiances until all of a sudden, he's in a fire, and then, I'm a good guy now. Like, to me, that fucking lost me.
Yeah, fair enough. I think, to me, it only worked because I think the tone of that film sets is very sporadic and very, like, it does more than one thing where something happens out of nowhere. I mean, it's a 4-year-old movie, but spoilers. Woody dies out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
suicide.
So to me, that's a movie where by the time Rockwell's switch came, even though I agree with you to an extent, you are right about that. It is very quick. To me, it's one of those things where it's like, well, it's not the first thing this film's just done a drop switch on us with. You know what I mean? I mean, even the way that they kind of reveal what happened to Frances McDormand's daughter, because they never really talked about that in the trailers. It was really saved for the film. Yeah. That was like a very quick, like, that's what happened? Okay. So to me, that's just kind of how the film decided to handle it, just whatever way Martin McDonagh paced it. So to me, it just fits what the film is going for. Like, this dude lost the guy he looked up to. He lost his job. He got picked on. Then he was, beat the shit out of a little dude, almost killed him, and was in a fire. Yeah, all right, fair enough. You went through. Yeah, sure. For what this film's doing, I buy it.
I can accept all those as reasons, but I mean, when it comes to him doing his every time you see the movie, it would have been nice to have seen just a hint of potential, like, maybe he could.
Humanity.
That's the only thing for me that was missing.
Yeah,
like,
fair.
All those reasons are 100% valid, and I would understand that, but we didn't see any hint of him whatsoever acting out that his character has the ability to change.
No, that's fair. It's done very come to Jesus-y. It's like real.
Exactly.
Yeah, done.
It reminds me of Saul from the Bible. The dude was a horrible person, and then all he falls off a horse, sees a vision from God, all of a sudden he's a missionary. Like,
that's a good comparison.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Of course.
Has there been an Oscar Best Picture movie that you feel shouldn't have won because you feel it's a little bit overrated?
I mean, that year.
Obvious.
What? I'm sorry?
Obvious blow. Or no, Traffic. Sorry, Traffic.
Crash.
That's the one.
We got there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think even Paul Haggis looks at that film and goes, how the fuck did that win?
Yeah.
Like, it's cool.
Besides that one,
for me,
Avatar.
Well, Avatar didn't win.
Yeah, Avatar didn't win.
No, it's right, it didn't win. Never mind.
For me, honestly, the year that we were just talking about, I don't think The Shape of Water should have won. Yeah. I think The Shape of Water is a good film, but it shouldn't have won. To me, that's a case of like. To me, almost that's a case of style over substance. It's a very beautiful film. the fact that to as much as you could, you made fucking a fish palatable is a kudos to you. But it's not the best movie on that list.
Well, there's a few. Well, Ben, you said you had one. Let's hear yours first.
Yeah.
Slumdog Millionaire.
I still haven't seen it, so I can't speak to that.
What was it up against? I forget what year that came out.
Hold on. I'm actually that is 2008. That is the last year with 5 nominees. So
Right, the Dark Knight year. Okay, so aside from that,
Frost Nixon, Milk, and The Reader.
Frost
Milk.
Nixon, Milk, The Reader. What was the other one?
Benjamin Button.
Oh, okay, not Benjamin Button. Slumdog
Milk.
Button now.
Milk should have won over Slumdog Millionaire, in my opinion.
I've never seen any of those movies, so I cannot comment.
Fair enough.
You know what? To be
That's a pretty
fair,
forgettable year, if I'm being real. That's a pretty forgettable year.
So it's 2011. Like, that's the year The Artist won.
Oh, yeah. What else came out that year? Let me see if I'm passionate about
Well,
one.
the other nominees that year were The Descendants, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, The
God,
Help,
why'd that get nominated?
Hugo, Midnight in Paris, Moneyball, The Tree of Life, and War Horse.
Okay, if we're talking about the artists. Now, I'm gonna be fair. I've never seen The Artist, and my thing with the Oscars and awards in general is don't say something doesn't deserve a nomination or a win if you can't swap it out for something. And if you've never seen it, I can't judge it. In terms of what I have seen on that list, I think Hugo is a very top tier film. When you put it in the lineup of Scorsese films, it's not. But as a film on its own, I think it's high quality. The other one that stood out was Moneyball. I really love that film. The Help and Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close are 2 films that I look back and go, how the fuck did they get nominated? And The Help's not a bad movie, but it's just like, that's such a... Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close is a bad film. How'd that get nominated?
I've never seen it.
isn't that the one with Tom Hanks and
Julia Roberts, yeah.
That's how he got nominated.
It's one of those films where it has a message and it really, really wants you to get it. And it just keeps going. Yeah.
I got another year 1990. You look at that one. Godfather 3 probably should have been nominated. It's not as, I think it's not as bad as everybody says, but it was nominated that year. It's the year Dances with Wolves won. It also nominated was Awakenings, which I think is Robin Williams' most underrated performance. It is such a good movie, and it completely tears your heartstrings. It's about.
I've never heard of it. No.
You've never heard of it?
Never heard of it. No, please.
It's him and Robert De Niro, and Robin Williams plays a doctor who works in I wouldn't say a mental health ward, but essentially it's people with problems. And Robert De Niro plays this character who. I can't remember what the name of the disease is, but essentially it kind of locks his subconscious inside. He doesn't really move, doesn't really emote or anything. It's kind of like he's okay.
Look it up.
And Robin Williams' character figures out a way to bring these people back, and that's what the movie's about. Is about the journey through that, seeing all these people like relive their lives, find out what they missed, find out who died, and then just to think, oh, this is going to work. This is pretty cure. No, it doesn't work, and everybody starts to slowly regress back to who they were. It's a really good movie. I would recommend watching that. And also nominated here was Ghost and Goodfellas.
And what one?
Ghost got a Best Picture nom? That's funny.
Ghost?
No, I thought of that film. I just didn't know it got nominated.
Yeah. That year was Dances with Wolves, Awakenings, Ghost, Godfather Part 3, and Goodfellas. Should have been Goodfellas.
Should have been Goodfellas.
Wait, I'm sorry. What one that year?
Dances with Wolves.
Okay.
Also known as Let's Watch Kevin. Which Kevin is this? Kevin Costner. Thank you. Let's watch Kevin Costner stroke himself for 3 hours.
Yeah, another one I still haven't seen. I mean, I'm looking.
To be fair, Dances with Wolves is better than the second time he tried doing it with The Postman. That movie sucks.
Yeah, I've heard bad things about that one too.
What is better, Dances with Wolves or Avatar? Same story.
And don't forget Ferngully in there as well.
Yeah. Well, hold on now. They're both better films than Ferngully.
Yeah, I don't remember much of
Keep it real. Ferngully's one of the few films that Robin Williams couldn't save.
Fair point.
He
There is
played
one.
a bat, right? He played a bat in that one.
He was the bat, yeah.
Yeah.
The name is Betty, and I'm here to say da 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 da. It's like, fuck off, dude. What are you doing?
There is one other year that you could argue the wrong picture won. That was 1998. That's the year Shakespeare.
Oh, Saving
Oh,
Private
yeah.
Ryan.
Yeah.
I do think the most, and I'd have to look. See, with recent years, I like that they have more nominees, but I think it creates an interesting scenario where it makes it harder to debate like the competitiveness of the year because there's so many films that there's automatically going to be one or two that you're like, yeah, that's never winning. Even if it's for theme, like just the themes of the type of film that it is. Like to go back to 2017 because it was the list I was just looking at. I love Get Out. I love Get Out. As somebody who doesn't like horror movies, I love Get Out. That movie didn't have a shot in hell in winning.
No, of course.
No. That movie's only award that it could have won, it did win, and that was screenplay. Mm-hmm. I was even shocked as shit that I remember waking up and when I read the Best Picture nominees and saw Daniel Kaluuya got nominated for actor, I just remember thinking, holy fuck, good for him. I would have never assumed that would have happened. Funny enough, Daniel Kaluuya was my what the fuck moment this year too, because somehow the two leading actors from Judas and the Black Messiah both ended up in Best Supporting Actor. Don't know how that happened, but
Yeah, okay. 2019 Oscars, let me ask you. Very, very good movie, Black Panther. Should not have been nominated.
That's
2018?
It came out in 2018, but the Oscars were
Okay, right. We're on the same page though.
2018 Oscars, it came out in 2017. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, that's the year.
Oh, it was better than Green Book.
I actually enjoyed Green Book. I thought it was a good movie.
Listen, I enjoyed Green Book too. My problem with that year is, and I like Green Book. Like every year, I do a top 20 list, and Green Book's in my top 20. It's a good film.
Yeah.
Clearly, with the climate and following the Oscars so white, you could tell in their nominations that they were trying to make a statement of we can be equal to.
Yeah.
And there were a number of films that year that I think really covered the issue of race and struggles with race that weren't even nominated for Best Picture. I mean, to me, and I know it's a weird one to put up there, but Spider-Verse, I think, covered that topic in a really good way. The Hate U Give came out that year. If Beale Street Could Talk came out that year. If you want to talk about the Best Picture, yeah. If Sorry to Bother You. If we want to talk about the nominees, Black Klansman.
Mm-hmm.
To give it to Green Book, which is the only one of those films where the lead character is white and it's the safest in terms of how it handles race, to me was saying, we want to support you, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah. It goes in the water.
And I should say, Green Book is a good film. It's not a bad film by any means. Outside of Dumb and Dumber, it's the best thing Peter Farrelly's done, bar none. I was shocked when I found out he made that movie.
I agree with you.
But in a year where so many films covered the topic you clearly wanted to reward far better and on a far more personal level than I think that film did, that's just one of those. Listen, it's probably good enough to deserve the award in any other year, just not this year.
Yeah, it's just the thing I took out from that is I hate that I feel bad for liking it. Everyone hates on it, and I'm sitting here. It's just like it's a good movie. Like if you want the true story, go watch a fucking documentary.
It's a good movie. They both deserve their nominations for acting. Mahershala deserved the win. Like if they don't work as well as they do, that movie falls apart. And I think they are brilliant, and they carry that movie through 100%. Yeah. It's just. It's very clear that the Oscars were trying to send a message, and I think the fact that Green Book won the top award is a bit of a weird message to send. Mm-hmm. Because again, out of all the and to be fair, Green Book does cover race and the personal afflictions that people face in a good way as well, in a very smart way, in a well-handled way. Like I think it does it well. It's just if you're giving a win to something to send a message of support, it's a little tone deaf to give it to the film that stars a white man, directed by a white man, written by white men, even though it's done well. Like, I would never take that away. The fact is, you know, if you can tell a story well and you can tell it in a way where people can connect to it, I'll never take away based on the color of your skin who's doing it. But in a year where they were clearly trying to send a message, it's a bit of a tone-deaf way to do it.
Yeah, and honestly, if you wanted to send that message to me, Black Panther should have been the winner.
And that's another film I think does cover it very well. I don't know if I would have put it up for Best Picture, because to me, Best Picture is something where it encapsulates all sides of filmmaking, and Black Panther to me has some very obvious gaps in it. And that's just my take on it. I think that's one of the reasons why blockbusters don't always get nominated.
Anymore. They used to be nominated all the fucking time.
True. In the modern era, they don't get nominated as much.
Because truly, the last one the blockbuster that actually got nominated for a shit ton of awards was Avatar. Like, 13 years ago?
Yeah. And before that, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings. Titanic was a massive blockbuster. Star Wars was nominated. Raiders was nominated. Jaws was nominated. Beauty and the Beast was nominated. Like,
Back to the Future.
Yeah, Back to the Future was not Best Picture nominee, was it?
I believe the first one was. Maybe not. Or not.
I know it was nominated for awards, but...
Let me find Back to the...
Maybe not. Hold on.
No, it wasn't, unfortunately.
It's a great film. Shit.
Yeah.
What came out in 1985?
But yeah, no, there was a time when blockbusters were consistently nominated. I don't know where along the way that fell off.
Here, let's do this for fun. I'll read the films off that came out that were nominated for 1985. If you want to see if you guys agree with these, or if Back to the Future should be in here.
Mm-hmm.
So the 5 films that got nominated were Out of Africa, which won, The Color Purple, Kiss of the Spider Woman, Prizzy's Honor, and Witness.
Never seen any of them.
I've never heard of 2 of them. Back to the Future probably should be there over one of them.
I've heard of all of them. I've just never watched them.
I never saw Witness for the first time. Witness is better than Back to the Future, in my opinion.
That's the Harrison Ford one.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue about that one.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of them other than that.
Yeah, no, it just makes me wonder the way that fell off, because there are good blockbusters out there.
Oh, there are. And honestly, it's kind of funny how the ruling of putting in more Best Picture nominees was put in place after the backlash against The Dark Knight, which was a blockbuster. And I kind of find it funny how it's almost served against it, because now it's just giving more indie films ways to get in, which I do think it does work out, because 2020, and unfortunately there's probably not a way to do it, but if you could go back and find an original calendar of like what was supposed to come out, there were a number of blockbuster films that were supposed to come out.
Yep.
In this year. And I love that, because they all got pushed because people were scared of box office. You know, we have a year where, you know, all these people are getting nominated. I mean, if I look at, like, go to this year and we look at the best to me, Best Director was the one that stood out. 4 directors, Thomas Vinterberg, Lee Isaac Chung, Chloe Zhao, and Emerald Fennell. I mean, first off, they're all foreign directors. You know, even Emerald Fennell, who's a white woman, is English. They're all foreign directors to the U.S. Academy. Yeah. They're all, one of them's an international film. Another round is, I believe it's either Dutch or Danish. It is, I believe, Danish, Denmark. So yeah, it's an international film. It's foreign language. I actually just saw that one recently. I thought that was great. It has Mads Mikkelsen in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's four like middle-aged guys, all of whom work in a school, and they're like bored with their lives, and so they decide to test this theory where if you live your life consistently at least a 0.05 blood alcohol content level, you supposedly are less inhibited and able to enjoy life more. And it's about like how this experiment helps some of them, hurts some of them, one of the guys develops alcoholism and it kind of takes over his life, and it's just seeing how it kind of, it's not so much about like the damages of alcohol, it's just more about what being in that type of situation could do to you and how it affects your life. It's a very interesting film. Again, the fight through with it is the fact that it's foreign language. So, I know that's a turn off for a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just my thing is, if you're going to nominate stuff for Best Picture, it has to encapsulate all of film, not just a particular...
Yes, I love that.
Because, like I said earlier, there are blockbusters that come out that are good. I would have argued Infinity War should have gotten a nominee. Hell, I would have argued Endgame should have gotten a nomination.
Yeah? Oh, yeah. Captain
America: The Winter Soldier.
Yes, I would agree.
You hold your tongue, Ben.
I think, actually, I personally agree with The Winter Soldier. I love it. And to me, and the funny thing is, when we talk about superhero films, probably with the exception of Infinity War and Endgame, only because those are just such level blockbusters that they don't really need to encapsulate anything. The films that people put in the conversation of what should be nominated for Best Picture are films that encapsulate other genres. Logan's a Western. It's Unforgiven in the best ways.
Yeah, and Winter Soldier is a political spy thriller.
Right, it's a spy thriller. It's 3 Days at the Condor. It's other films like that with a superhero twist. Yeah. The Dark Knight's a detective film. Like, at its heart, it's truly a detective film that just happens to have a detective that wears pointy ears and a cape. And other films like that, I think the best of their genre, to me, I love, not that it's Best Picture, but I love Ant-Man. Ant-Man's a comedy. Like, at its heart, it's not really a superhero film. It's a heist comedy that just happens to have a dude with a shrinking suit.
Yeah. It's just like, I'm looking at this year. Well, okay, this year's not really much, whatever, because of what happened. But I mean, if you're going to nominate something for Best Picture, it should encapsulate all of film. It should include blockbusters in there. It should include streaming movies. It should include independent movies. It should it should include movies from earlier in the year.
Well, I was going to say, let me throw something out to you. So it's a bit of a running joke, but on one of the shows on my channel, After Dark, one of my co-hosts had a running bit before the nominations were announced where he legitimately believed, and he still does believe, that if the Oscars, because, we had that mess of, like, most popular film a couple of years ago, if the Oscars want to encapsulate a film and reach a wider audience, Bad Boys for Life should have gotten a Best Picture nomination. And his argument for it was, it's the most seen blockbuster of the year, but he said on top of that, it's a film that was surprisingly good. Most people didn't expect it to be good, and it surprised us. It delivered solid performances all around from its cast. It was well directed from relatively newcomers, and it did tackle topics that are topical in the world in terms of race, family, finding your place. It tackled real topics while still being a blockbuster with good action and fun comedy. And his argument is, if we're going to have up to 10 slots in a year that, a movie like this wouldn't be looked at because of everything that got shifted, why not give it to it? Because it's one of the films that, in a year where people probably only saw 3 films all year, that might have been one of them because of how well it did.
Yeah, but that's where it all comes down to, is what type of movie it is. It's not what you would think of as an Oscar movie.
Right. And I guess
which, unfortunately, it's a bias.
How do you fight against that, basically?
Yeah.
In changing times, how do you fight against it?
Yeah. I agree. I agree 100%. So we've already passed the 1 hour mark, which is pretty good. I love when this happens. We just completely have time. So thank you very much for being on again, Arron. Where can everybody find you?
So you guys can find everything that I'm doing over on the channel TMG Entertainment. We have a series of podcasts. I won't go through the whole spiel on your guys' video, but specifically the stuff that I'm involved in. Every Monday at 7 p.m. EST, I have Schmo Talks. Ben has been a previous guest on it. Matt, I'm working with you to have you on as a guest as well, in which it's a kind of a mix. The main goal is to get it to be an interview show, and I've already had a couple of fun interviews. I got to interview earlier this year, just some of them to throw out. I've had manager John Kaiser on. I've had 2 rookies who I'm buddies with, Amaru Moses and Jesse Swift, come on for interviews. And I'm not going to announce them, but I do have a couple of fun ones lined up. Talk to Ben off camera about some of them. So I have some fun ones lined up coming up down the road. I'm I'm also a part of a weekly show called After Dark. It's kind of this chill hangout show that we do every Saturday night at 9 p.m. EST, in which basically we kind of bring up some of the most recent movie news during the week and kind of have this, for the most part, laid back discussion about it. A couple of weeks ago, we did an interesting experiment that I kind of want people to check out. We spent a whole episode discussing the Ray Fisher situation after the tell-all article dropped with The Hollywood Reporter. And essentially, I went through, broke every piece of it down, and we had a couple of guest panelists on to talk about it and kind of break down every aspect of it and talk about the negative and the good. And it's not something that we'll do often, but I certainly think it's an interesting episode, considering most of the time it's movie news and dick jokes. I like that we were able to do something more serious.
Okay.
So I'd appreciate if people check that out. But yeah, TMG Entertainment, that's where you can find me.
Right on. And Ben, what about you?
You guys can find me right here on the Media City Network. Every Tuesday here on City of Movies, every Friday with Matt here on Recapping the Past, every Saturday on the flagship show Get Ready. Every Sunday on Men's Hot Takes, I think I'm back this week. And then every Saturday on Mount Slowdown, my Slowdown show, going into players' careers. This week we are taking off, we got people, but we have someone lined up for the following week, which will be fun.
Right on. And for myself, you can find me at soda_the_saxman on Instagram and Twitter. You can find me on all the shows Ben's already listed on here, and you can also find me over on the Schmoes of the North Network, which is where Mount Schmoedown is located, where every week we break down, usually in 2 different videos, the goings-on of what's happened in the week. One's usually the pay-per-view, one is the other 3 matches. This week, we're going to be doing it a little differently. We're going to be doing, on Friday night's live show, we're going to be doing the 3 matches for this week, and then on Sunday, there is going to be an episode on the free-for-all, so definitely check that out. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you next week. Don't forget, everyone, stay sweaty and smash cancer.